really important video about glycosylation. Something I studied earlier this week. I did a YouTube video about it, and I walk you through my process of understanding certain concepts, and I start with defining certain things, and I use that as the basis for my understanding of how this process works. So I understand glycosylation and proteolytic cleavage a little better now. Maybe I'm not even halfway where I want to be as far as being knowledgeable about it, but I want to take you through my process of understanding what it is. So glycosylation, I may be pronouncing it wrong, but glycosylation is where proteins are changed over time through the use of carbohydrates. Now, there are essential fatty acids and there are essential amino acids, but no one suggests that carbohydrates may be essential. And I will say that complex carbohydrates are very essential, but complex carbohydrates turn into fatty acids, which are essential, right? But there's another type of biological process that happens in our body that we may not be aware of. It's called glycosylation, and it has to do with carbohydrates playing a role in how proteins are formed, right? How proteins are formed and broken down. Now, if you've ever done an endurance exercise, or if you've ever done endurance training, you realize that carbohydrates are essential for getting to that next level of fitness, right? And also, I've been studying about this substance called methylglyoxal, and through reading this thing about methylglyoxal and fructose and AMPK, I come to understand that carbohydrates or glucose is necessary for certain cellular adaptations we need, right? And I took that as meaning that in order to perform at a higher level, we need carbohydrates to get there. And glycosylation is one of the ways that our body gets there, I believe. I'm going to go to Koala AI and I'm going to ask it some specific questions and see what it says. My endurance athletes experience effects of protein glycosylation that are significantly different than the protein glycosylation that occurs in other individuals. Cite relevant sources in MLA format. There is evidence to suggest that endurance athletes may experience different effects of protein glycosylation compared to other individuals. Protein glycosylation refers to the addition of sugar molecules to proteins, which can affect their structure and function. In endurance athletes, prolonged exercise may lead to changes in glycosylation of proteins, particularly in muscle tissue. One study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology investigated the effects of prolonged exercise on protein glycosylation in rats. The researchers found that endurance exercise led to increased glycosylation of proteins in muscle tissue, which may contribute to muscle fatigue and damage. Kideoka et al. 2002. Another study published in the Journal of Proteome Research looked at the effects of exercise on protein glycosylation in human plasma. Researchers found that endurance exercise led to changes in the glycosylation of several plasma proteins, including immunoglobulins and fibrinogen, Zhang et al. 2011. These studies suggest that endurance athletes may experience different effects of protein glycosylation compared to other individuals. However, further research is needed to fully understand the mechanisms underlying these effects. Now, the reason why I was studying this because I wanted to know a little bit more about proteins, right? But I have a very specific experience with protein in my past. I was in French Polynesia, and we were at a restaurant, and I was eating steak, and they brought this steak out like raw, right? And they had this really hot stone, and they placed the steak on the stone, and it cooked on both sides, right? You had to cook it like the stone was piping hot, and they had the steak in the plate, and then you put the steak on the plate and let it, cook, and you turn it over, and it cooks on the other side. And so and then also at this restaurant, they would always bring us bread. Like, we were there for like 5 days, and they would bring us bread at our table, and we didn't eat that much bread, didn't really understand the whole concept. On the third or fourth day of this dinner, I had a steak, and I found it hard to eat the steak, and so I thought to eat bread instead, right? So I was eating the steak and chewing, and I wasn't, able to break the steak down very much. But I ate bread with it, and as I was eating the bread, the steak tended to dissolve, like right then and there. And I never really understood why or what that was, but that is a form, in my belief, this is my theory, this is a theory. According to my theory, that is a form of glycosylation, right? So basically carbs are able to help break down proteins. And these are sort of things I do and questions I ask myself consistently. This is a question, it may not lead to anything, but at least it's I'm furthering my understanding, and I'm getting more conviction. I'm getting more grounded in what I understand about glycosylation. I'm learning how to pronounce it better, learning how it works in the body. I'm learning that endurance athletes are affected differently, possibly, than people that aren't endurance athletes. And why is this important? Because I do know that endurance athletes tend to have a lot more histamine in their system. And I'm thinking this might be one of the reasons why. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you want help reaching your fitness goals, seek a fitness professional. If you want help from me, there's resources on this video, resources on this channel, and at iHeartGames.com. I'm Smitty. I hope you reach your fitness goals, and I'll talk to you next week.